Introducing Brennan.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. You guys hear me all right in the back? Cool. I know we're like a minute early, but I think I'm holding you guys back from the happy hour, right? So hopefully I'll make this entertaining and quick. Awesome to be here. First time here at B-Sides Las Vegas. I've done a few B-Sides other places. I am from New York, live in Manhattan, and yeah, made the mistake of most Manhattanites of trying to walk around Vegas. Right, like, come on. It's one road usually you walk on, and I'm realizing like there are three other types of people that walk around Vegas. It's the drunks, right? The bums that aren't really doing much walking, and then the zombies like myself who think and walk like this, and our brains are fried by the time you get to your destination. But lo and behold, we're here at Hacker Summer Camp. Really excited to be here. I'll be here all week. Feel free to come up, talk to me afterwards. I've got some fancy new stickers to share, and they are fresh from the pack, so you guys are very lucky. They kind of smell new as well. But anyways, all right. So Rage Against the Machine. Let's rage on. Quick quiz lookup. Brennan Lodge. Got a few roles. Let's see. First off, I've been in the financial industry, fortunately or unfortunately, the last 18 years. I'm from Manhattan, well, from Philly, live in Manhattan. I've worked in a few of the banks, JP Morgan, Federal Reserve Bank, Bloomberg, Goldman, HSBC. I teach, professor at NYU. I teach IT and management and analytics. And with that teaching, I've gone down the rabbit hole of doing some research and using my students as lab rats for some of my AI work. No bad testing or anything like that. They willingly help. Yeah, and won a few awards in the research using RAG, aka Rage, for cybersecurity. I won an award at Oxford. Anybody familiar with CADDIE competitions? The data science, awesome. Won ML use cases CADDIE competition at Oxford, and then U.S. Cyber Command. This is back in 2022. I think pre-ChatGPT, before AI was cool and sexy. If you guys remember the terms like machine learning, big data, all of that, and analytics. Yeah, they're still around. Was using it back then for alert fatigue and finding needles in the haystack. So really cool opportunities there. I've got a LinkedIn learning class. Anybody done LinkedIn learning? Really good. Get your company to pay for it. I've got a class on RAG, using RAG for cybersecurity use cases. And I also got one coming out August 16th for MCP, Model Context Protocol. And I will get into that as well. Let's do it. All views are my own and not my employer. I do the fractional CISO stuff. I'm employed at Manhattan Institute, really great place, and I get to use this stuff to help out and protect our company. So we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of AI and cybersecurity. Hopefully it's not repetitive. I'm sure almost every talk has sprinkled in AI. We'll get into Rage or RAG Against the Machine, and some use cases, GRC, and in the SOC. I got my start in the SOC. Anybody SOC analyst? Yeah, it's tough. It's grunt work, right? We do follow the sun. So I've been there, been in your shoes, and when I'm implementing, researching, doing this stuff, I think of junior analyst Brennan Lodge in the SOC, coming in, coffee, with a ton of caffeine. And just trying to take down the queue down to zero, right? I think we're familiar with that, and it's an endless goal, and that doesn't seem to be stopping. So putting that in mind, how can we help those folks? I'll go through some of the data workflow, architecture, and hell, roll your own, right? So I'll give you all the open source tools that I've used, and even the costs associated with it. So that should be the takeaway. You should all be Retrieval-Augmented generation experts by the end of this talk. If not, check out LinkedIn Learning. And yeah, I mean, like that's the takeaway. Bring it back, try it out, experiment. We can't sit on the sidelines anymore with AI. The stakes are too freaking high for the cybersecurity attacks, breach after breach after breach. Come on, let's do better. All right, so the good. We've got information overload. Is that good? I don't know. We are facing a deluge of threats in data. There's a 24 by 7 need. We've got talent gaps. We've got burnout. And AI is not silver bullet, but it can help. So, and I'll get into the details about why it can help. The rising attack volume, right? I don't have to tell you guys this. We've got complex integration challenges that are just all over the place. So AI to help. But if we've got AI and if it works, don't touch it. Like this old network router here, collecting a bunch of dust, but it's still got the blinky blinks working. Still working, right? Do we clean it off? Do we touch it? Do we leave it in the closet? If it's still working, new technology here, what do we do? So, the bad. Let's not be like Salt Bay and sprinkle AI into everything. What are we going to do with AI? Is it SOAR 2.0? Is it our co-pilot? Can we be more creative with it, with new detections? And can we answer annoying third-party risk reviews? Can it be the automation? But is it automation for the sake of automation? At the end of the day, the human is still in the loop. I'll repeat that. The human is still in the loop. It's not going to take away from that expertise. One thing I experienced as a CISO of not Shadow IT, but Shadow AI. Anybody familiar with the annoying Read AI app? Yes. Okay. So I'm not the only one. Quick story. Read AI entered our teams through somebody clicking and filling it out. It's kind of addictive with it being a worm. If you sign up, it sends an email and, hey, you want to read this transcript of the email? It'll summarize it, give you really good metrics, analytics, content, right? Tell you who's talking. Don't do it, because then it hooks into your browser extensions. It hooks into your teams. And yeah, it's a mess. So this is not the first, and it won't be the last. Great business use case for it to spread itself, but it's going to annoy a lot of CISOs and security folks. So just be aware of that and the bad of AI. But what about the other thing of costs? So this is Jensen sprinkling in AI and tokens. In the big keynote speech he had at GTC, he mentioned tokens 85 times. We're all familiar with the rising cloud costs and lack of transparency. How the heck am I supposed to know of cloud costs, and now they're going to put this onto AI? What is a token? I don't know. The definition is different. It could be a phrase. It could be words. It could be whatever AI model wants to come up with it to charge you mysterious funds in order to use that model. So just be aware of that. And push the vendors. Ask for transparency. What is this going to cost me? What are the expectations? Can you tell me how many tokens I'm using with the utilization of your AI? And last but not least, this is the ugly. Does anybody remember Clippy? Yes. Why are we back to Clippy all over again with AI and chatbots? Would you like help? No, go away. I can do this. Yeah. All right. So the AI with the CISO dilemma. I've been speaking to a lot of CISOs in the industry. Some of the complaints say we're scrambling to come up with an internal AI policy, so we don't have one yet. All of our employees are using ChatGPT. We can't stop our employees from doing it. We can implement it, but how do we explain it? The mysterious black box of lack of transparency, again, with how the heck AI is working. A lot of data scientists that are on the OpenAI team that are leading and building these models have no freaking clue how it works in the back end. Some idea, right? But how it understands our English language, is able to translate. rap, lyrics, and write it back in email form, right? Like how? And if you can't understand it and it's making decisions, can you trust it? Okay. So, but in security, we need a secure AI solution. We need it to cut down on time it takes to make those decisions, and we need it to be cheap. So, my take here, AI as a guide, not particularly a full on stop guard. We need to understand it. And these models, analyze and generate text, but does that text make sense in the threat perspective? Does it make sense with our how many alphabet soup acronyms are in cybersecurity? It's endless, right? Can it understand them, translate it, and give us that context back? So we need an ally. We need help. We need an assistant, not Clippy, but somewhere in between. And I think we need to be more transparent with our tools and democratize tools. Huge fan of open source, but open source is really tough with LLMs right now. And we need cheaper, faster products and rapid analysis. So, can we be data driven? I think measure what matters. Can we measure ROI for cybersecurity, especially with AI? Yes, no, maybe so, right? And we need to integrate and scale. There's some really cool tools out there. My friends at Deep Temple have a really awesome product of integration at scale, and it just gets out of the way, right? It runs in the background in your data lake and just does what it's really good at doing: finding anomalies, finding things that your standard static rules can't find. And I think that is the next step of, hey, let it run in the background, get some transparency, get some understanding, get some context, and let it do its thing, and have those be high fidelity. The first time it's low fidelity, it's really tough to prove that value. We're dealing with a crap ton of false positives in the SOC, and how do we cut that down? And more vendors are giving us more and more alerts, right? Like that's the opposite of what we want. So we need to get higher fidelity and get some snipers in there. Those snipers can be AI models that can do anomaly detection on our big data, but they've got to have really good high accuracy. RAG. Okay, so what is it? Retrieval-Augmented Generation. The analogy I like to use is, think of a library. You go up to the librarian. Yes, you should still go to the library and read books. They're free. Remember the simple system of a library, right? You've got like 3 components. It's very similar to how RAG works. You have a sentence embedding model, a vector database, and a large language model. Some AI, hoopla, jumbled words out there, but let me make it clear for you. So your sentence embedding model, Dewey Decimal System. Who remembers that from elementary school? Nice. Cool. All right, translating your ISBN numbers or the authors or numbers, like that number in the back of the book, to a genre, to a specific section in your library. That is over to the vector database. So the ingest is, hey, take my query, take my question, let's translate that into some topical terms that can then be semantically searched within the vector database. Our vector database is that stack of books, the layers, the genres, the sections that are hopefully organized in a easy manner and understand place. And then we've got the LLM or our librarian. So your librarian is going to ingest, take that question, translate it with the Dewey Decimal System or sentence embedding model, find the right book, find the right page, find the right paragraph, for example, speed down the aisle, bring it back. English translation, is this what you need? I'll give me a quick blurb, and also give me a link as to where I can find it. So that is all packaged in a nice little gem for you, all through RAG. But why should we use this? Well, we've got Kermit the Frog, who is hallucinating here, like many static LLMs are doing these days. Don't get me wrong, they're getting better, right? But with a RAG, you can ingest with some real-time feeds, new data with a static LLM. Yes, they're upgrading different versions, different flavors, but once that's released, it is a binary. It is a snapshot in time. Any new future data is not going to learn on it because it's a model that was released and done. So with RAG, you can continue to ingest that data, upsert it to your vector database, and it's going to be live. And it's going to be fresh. The LLM can incorporate that latest data and ensure up-to-date sources. You guys with me so far? Cool. Okay. And it could be private data. Private data that you do not have to share with OpenAI, even though they've scanned the internet and have many lawsuits against them, and other models. I tend to pick on OpenAI. I use it, but there are others under that same legal matter. And you can keep that on-prem. You could use your own local LLM. There's really good open source ones, and I'll get into some of those in a minute. So roll your own. How are we going to do this? We want to funnel some of our data, MITRE attacks, CISA advisories, policies. The endless amount of internal private data can remain internal and private. When I was building this, I set a benchmark. Hey, I wanted it to be relatively cheap, of $500 or less, as far as processing and the resources. And yeah, this is 2 years ago now where I rolled this, and I wanted to respond within 10 seconds. At the time, I tested some AMD GPU models. Anybody tested AMD? No, nobody tests AMD anymore because it's so hard to freaking use. And that's why NVIDIA is NVIDIA, and the price of the stock is so sky high. If you're building any hardware, build something for developers. Easy to use, and go figure, like easy to integrate with Python. So that's what I went with, and here's the steps to do it. So to get to RAG, we've got to do the data ingestion. Lots of open source tools out there to parse, scrape, ingest those PDFs, those Word documents, and there's this concept called chunking. This is where you've got to do a lot of trial and error. I said, hey, let's just chunk by sentence, let's chunk by paragraph, let's chunk by page. And in order to get good efficacy, you got to figure out what works best for you. If you've got a couple terabytes of data, probably best by page, or maybe a couple pages. If you're working with a small amount of data, hey, maybe by the sentence. Miles is going to vary, but you've got to do that splitting and then creating embeddings. So the embeddings are there to create the similar vector representations of the words and the terms that you're using. Again, you've got to use a sentence embedding model out there. And then LangChain is the glue that helps you do the orchestration between a vector database, your sentence embedding model, the chunking, making sense out of the question that you ask, and bringing that back all through the LangChain function there. And then you ask a question, and then you've got an LLM. I highly recommend you start to visualize your vectors, or what are in the vector database. This again gives that transparency of what data you're in, and you can have the sections. You can also search in there. So if you're getting bad results of your RAG, just take out some of those documents that are kind of throwing it off and maybe outliers. Yeah, and then on the right side are some of those open source tools. Hugging Face, the GitHub of open source LLMs. The sentence embedding model, I'm using the All Mini L12 version 2. I'm still using it. Still seems good. And yeah, check out Nomic. I've got no association with them. I think they're a really cool company about transparency. They've got a tool called Atlas, where they visualize, and they have like an inventory of models that they continue to update, and you can search the models for context as to what subject you want to use your model for. But it can be a little tricky. So when I was first experimenting, I wanted to build like phishing detection using RAG. So I searched in Nomic, fish, the banned fish came back a couple times. So just watch out for that. And but yeah, then I got some spam and like examples, and then I went down the rabbit hole like, hey, does it have cybersecurity related things? And I'm sure if there aren't already, there are going to be LLMs in Hugging Face that are built for our particular domains, whether it be GRC, cybersecurity. They're probably already there, but more to come on that. Oh, and then Chroma. ChromaDB is the vector database that I use, free, really easy to use, really good Python help. This is the workflow. So starting with the data sources, the chunking, I was just stripping out some CISA advisories from Gmail. I got a really cool CSV from the Mightier Attack Techniques, chunk them, upsert them into the vector database, get your embeddings right with the sentence embedding model. I talked about LangChain, and then moving over to the LLM services. Doing the search, putting it on an endpoint, and then, hey, having a little Slack bot. That's where I initially tested it out. Then I built a UI, and lo and behold, got some RAG. So this is a visualization, and I've got two here of a UMAP on the document embeddings, with different types of clusters. I think this one is a little bit better. We'll play it here. So on the left-hand side, I got some open source detections from Sigma, a couple thousand. And then on the right-hand side are my threat intel, advisories. And it's cool because you can just see row by row what's in there. And then given the searches that you do and the results that come out, it'll make a reference. And then, so it puts them in, certain topics. So on the right-hand side, I've got, my threat intel. I can go through that. And a really good way to provide transparency that is lacking, I think, in the AI space. So on to security of AI and RAG. Why do it? Right, our data is on its way out to OpenAI. With the API services, that's not good. Let's put it in a container. We can do that, keep it on-prem in a VPC, and it stays locked and safe in there. Again, model is going to vary, right? You got to jack up the resources if you're going to do on-prem, pay for the GPUs, depending on how many queries you're doing. And this is how I benchmarked it. I think it's about on average from what I've seen through RAG within cybersecurity use cases. But I used my lab rats, aka my students, to test this out. So around like 5 analysts, if you will, are asking 20 queries per day. And if we total that up, that's about 5,000 tokens. Again, the token is like phrase or short phrase or words. So we do the math there. We're getting about 100,000 tokens each day for these questions. If you do this in a VPC, the cheapest at the time was with a G4 DN 4 extra large GPU, met the benchmark of responses within 5 seconds. And it's around $500 a month, right? We do it with ChatGPT, OpenAI, making those queries out at 100,000 tokens. I think the prices have come down, especially for the early models, but at the time, it was $100 more. And our data was leaving the network, and so we're giving up some of the privacy there as well. Has anybody read the book Phoenix Project? Yeah, nice. All right, cool. I feel like we're at the Phoenix Project again with AI and the evolution of like integration. I followed along with the CISO. Does anybody remember the CISO and the Phoenix Project? Like tons of anxiety, like under a ton of stress, and also a drunk, right? Kind of checks out like for a lot of CISOs these days. And yeah, so what do we do, right? Like, how do we integrate and help the business? And let's just go back to our old school methods of implementing projects with some cybersecurity, or no, or this is new, right? Is it new? Is it earth shattering? Does the old methods of user authentication, guardrails, encoders, encryption help? I think so. It is a new vector, if you will, but some of the old school methods can be applied to AI. So let me tell you how. So user input, SQL injection, right? We're working with prompt injection now. Sanitizing the user input, very similar, right? Like, let's do the same freaking thing. Check on, is it trying to, like, trick the AI model? Who's heard about, talking to the grandmother, right, to trick the AI into, what was it, giving up the Windows keys, right? Like, brilliant. But let's try and look. It's going to be endless on methods to attack, but go figure, right? All it takes is one little hole to find in the network for attackers these days. But we need to start thinking along those same methods. So let's put in those guardrails. Let's encrypt our database, in transit. Let's encrypt it, at rest. So that would be our vector database. Let's put some output guardrails. Let's log freaking everything and send some of these things to the SOC in the event it violates it. And those are, sort of red, kind of the guardrails here. Really cool, map from Galileo. I think they're still in the AI space, but you get the picture. And then, so the subjective part here with how do we evaluate the results from LLM models? I mean, it's next to impossible because it's very subjective. There is a method called hide, which is hypothetical document encoding, and it's freaking hypothetical, right? But it's another LLM that tests against the documents. It tests against the queries to either validate or invalidate the answers that you're getting back. So there are some methods out there. All right, who came here for MCP? Model Context Protocol? All right, you're in luck. This is how I think of it. A USB-C port, right? I've got one here to my MacBook. It is the USB-C port for AI that connects your models on the host with a client, your MCP port, to your servers, your Slack, your Gmail, your calendar, your local data sources. To make sense out of it all, and running within the wires is the AI model. So agentic, yes. A protocol, we need one to make these communications happen and log it with a standard. One port, endless tools, and zero spaghetti code. Under the hood, it is JSON RPC 2.0 in a nice little JSON format to structure it, and it's pretty good. The architecture I mentioned, the host, the client, the server, and think of it like, hey, the host, I'm asking a question, show me the current weather. The client, knows that I'm in New York City, and the server has, the API and the feed and the data to, make that connection happen and route that data back to the host. All right, who's ready for some demos? This is my open source project. It's called Arsenal Forge. It uses MCP and RAG. Why did I do this? Not to be the next SOAR, but orchestration and making sense with some transparency of some of the alerts, right? So I embedded, similar to what you guys saw for RAG. I've got MITRE, I've got a detection inventory, I've got some advisories or threat intel, typical SOC data that we're dealing with, And the solution is I want something fast, I want something smart, and that's going to help me make more informed decisions without the crazy price tag of some SOAR 2.0 product, right? That, is going to be really expensive, really slow, and it's going to take me, a year to freaking implement and integrate because I've got 1,500 Splunk detections. I've got 2 terabytes worth of threat intel. And I want to make sense out of MITRE and inform my analyst all at the same time. So this is the data workflow, taking those data sources. I've got the ETL, so that's extract, transform, load. So behind the scenes here of some secret sauce, I use a schema that we're all familiar with, which is, email, right? So within email, we have subject, we have a body, we have a source, usually an IP address, and we have a timestamp date. So using that as your schema for how you parse and collect your data goes really far, almost as far as like the prompt engineering, but just giving you the heads up when you're building this on your own. So an example here, we've got this lengthy Splunk detection rule and we want to know what MITRE ATT&CK technique is associated with this. Many times we're doing the manual labeling of this Splunk alert, usually a junior analyst or an engineer. So are they right? Are they wrong? And don't get me wrong, like there's multiple techniques that have some overlap, that it may be one or the other, but this is going to give at least a best effort. It's going to go through the trifecta of the library, what I mentioned, for RAG, and output a mapping of the technique. In this case, it was remote desktop protocol. I'm sure because it picked up on some of the network indicators here. Oh, and RDP. So we didn't really call out remote desktop protocol. We used an acronym, picked up on the acronym. Good job, RAG, and it's pretty cool. It tells us what technique it is and then creates the link. So why is this good? Well, this is the end result that a cybersecurity analyst should see, with an ability to dive a little bit deeper, get some more context, maybe even provide a playbook to help them through and do a good job. So let's play this. All right, this is what's going on behind the scenes to set up your MCP. I upload the data to the Chroma DB. This is all in an open source project, and I'll share the link at the end. Let's get those scripts. Let's upload the MITRE techniques. Let's upload CISA advisory, detection inventory. Come on. And get them up and running on a server. So now we've got our data that is complete, and we want to start some MCP servers. We start a memory server. So why are we doing a memory server? This is going to log all of the queries. It's going to log everything that the MCP Arsenal Forge tool is doing to give some transparency. And it's also going to log those conversations, right? And learn, hopefully, about what the analyst is asking and provide better context. We fire up a Streamlit app and welcome to Arsenal Forge. We're taking a look at the MOVEit IT vulnerability detection. That's what came up. It first goes through OpenAI, gives a little run book of what the MOVEit vulnerability is. We've got the MITRE ATT&CK technique, which is some scanning with the MOVEit technology. We've also got our detection inventory and a link to that particular detection for additional details. So this could be on your backend database of all your logic. A description here to help the analysts, right? They want to dive deeper, great. They want a quick summary. We've got that within Arsenal Forge. Let's check out the threat intel related to MOVEit. We've got a CISA advisory. Progress Software releases server path for the MOVEit transfer vulnerability. And then last but not least, the memory. The full result, the timestamp, the text that came through with it. Thank you. Right. Let's pause that. Go to the next slide. Shake and bake. Oh, yeah. We've got some security detections. We got MITRE. We got CSAT advisories. And it's doing the automatic mapping all from MCP. Okay. How about some more cybersecurity use cases? Governance, risk, and compliance. Ah, cringe, right? Yes. Sorry, we'll go fast. But when I think of GRC, it's the ugly baby that is really hard to talk about with parents. We've all got some skeletons in the closet of lack of policies, lack of controls. And as a fractional CISO, this is one of the most annoying tasks that I have. God bless the souls that are doing GRC full time. It's a tough job. And the data nerd that I am, I wanted to get into, all right, is this getting worse? We hear from the current administration, we're going to get rid of all laws and regulations, and the companies are going to do business themselves, and we're not going to get in their way. And that's not going on. We see a huge rise in laws, and when we break this down by the laws that we've got to abide by in our industry, they're on the rise. And lo and behold, AI bot rules are up and up. The privacy laws within the states are staying flat, and we've also got cybersecurity laws per state that are going up. So how do we stay abreast of these laws? Does it impact us? And what does it mean? Here's the numbers. They're on the rise, and then also around the world too. So I worked at the big banks. This is one of the first use cases I used RAG for. We were in 100 plus countries, and our head of GRC could not figure out what we needed to do because we were going into business and banking in, say, Iceland, right? What do we have covered? Here's Brennan, the Iceland law. Does it map? Well, we've got to hire the lawyers that are super expensive to do that. And yeah, it's just on the really good stats from the UN. 158 countries have e-transaction laws, 156 have cyber crime laws, and then consumer protection on the up and up. And I thought US, we were kind of lax in it. Not the case. So how do we make sense out of it? We talked about RAG, we talked about the vector database. There are some other tools for classification. I used a foundation model called BERT. Anybody familiar with BERT? Yeah, it's like that sentence completion on our text, on our email of, figuring out the next word. And go figure, that is really good at classification and legal types of things. So when it comes to that gap analysis, why not get AI to do it for us, right? I mean, yes, we still need that human in the loop. We still need that approval. We still need to understand the spirit of the law, of the regulation, right? And why not, get some visibility into that? So that visibility, transparency is key here, right? Percentage match. So you can use BERT, you can use classification to upload your policies and tell me how far along am I with SOC 2? How far along am I with ISO, CMMC, right? I've got an open source project on GitHub. I have these starter packs. I've got 50 plus policies that serve me well in getting to SOC 2, hopefully can help you guys out as well. And then a tool that we're releasing called CADDIE that can do all of this for us. But the what I'm calling compliance notebooks are that comparison, and it'll tell me which policies I either have or need to write. But what if we don't have a SOC 2 or a framework like a new regulation, and fundamentally a lot of the regulations that are written have something related to SOC 2 or have some domains or controls that we need to focus on. So putting it in a nice little tabular format similar to the SOC 2 can be done, and we can still do that comparison and policy mapping. So the open source project, check it out on GitHub. It's called Open Audit CADDIE. I've got those policy templates, the starter packs, a bunch of different state regulations and frameworks, everything from FERPA to CMMC, and then the classification models. So I'm starting to build foundational BERT models that will get you SOC 2 that are focused just on that. Let's not use the crazy OpenAI that are trained on all of the internet. How about a small language model that can help us focus and keep on task with certain things that we need to stay on task with? And if you ask the question of why the sky blue, it's going to blurt out something stupid, right? Because you shouldn't be asking that question. What is the control domain for my code of conduct policy is what I should be asking. So let's use this type of framework. So let's check it out. Come on, come on. I'm seeing what you see. Here's the GitHub page for Audit CADDIE. Highly check it out. I had a friend who's working on a startup. He's trying to get in to sell to schools. He needed to get regulations done through the Department of Education in New York. I sent him here, and he just loved it because he could just go through the templates, use those, fill in his company name, and get up and running and get certified. This is the tool. The dashboard will tell you how far along. I mentioned you upload those policies. You point it at SOC 2. We ask a quick survey, and this gives the AI model some context about what your company is to help frame and customize and give you some context. Maybe, hey, what state you're in and what regulations you need to abide by. And then these are the snap in play compliance notebooks that will break out each of the domains, and in each domain, we could ask specific questions about the particular control. So in this case, we've got CC1.1, and then also we've got our files in here. Again, transparency is key. And in this case, we've got a information security management policy that was automatically classified through this classification of, hey, it's probably best suited in high confidence to be a part of this domain, and risk and identification management. We've got all the actions here, when it was uploaded. And yes, your auditor should be happy to use this, can log in, and you won't be annoyed by them pestering the questions. Like my friend Joe in the back, who's an auditor, did an audit for me. Yeah, he was annoying, but he said, Brennan, let's do this with AI. And here we are. Also, we can export this in a nice little report. We can export it downstream, JSON, and this is what that report looks like. It's English. It's an export. It explains the domains for me, and it helps me with the findings. And it's also friendly for the auditor, clean, clear. And also, the assessment. Hey, I'm incomplete. I'm red on a lot of these things, but I've got some confidence with the documents and the evidence that I've uploaded. So, hopefully not an ugly baby anymore that we have to deal with. But, this helps the business. It helps understand what risk you need. It helps you get that stamp of approval to the auditor and hopefully unlock some business deals for you. You could, take the compliance part away, have this help you out, and save a lot of time and a lot of money. All right, let's wrap up here. Beer soon. You guys ready? Who's getting thirsty? I am. So, last but not least, if you're not first, you're last in AI. You cannot sit on the sideline anymore. You cannot wait for the newest model to come out. You've got to test this out. for the sake of your company, for the sake of security, for the sake of our industry, right? We need to use it. Mileage is going to vary. Cost is going to vary. Push the vendors for compliance, push them for transparency, and test this out. There are use cases, both in cybersecurity defense. We saw it in GRC. It doesn't have to be the ugly baby anymore, and we can use it to help. All right, last but not least, some links. Scan my QR code here. You guys are first to know about CADDIE, so welcome to the community. Feel free to reach out. Check out LinkedIn and stickers. Come grab some. Thank you. B-sides. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Questions. Who's got them? Are you going to walk around? Okay.
You'll have to use your podium mic.
Yeah, I can do that.
Is the podium mic on?
Yes. Testing. Yep. Over here.
Okay, so I have a few questions, I guess. So did you was this done for like NYU's compute and like all that stuff?
Yeah, so I using it like a sandbox environment in Amazon. That's what I know. So just like an EC2 instance, and yeah, I pay for it and did all the testing, but my students were able to link up and then use the RAG there.
Yeah. So I guess adding on to that, I don't know if like you guys can do local LLMs and stuff, but I know Dartmouth has AI lab. So could you alleviate costs and also add some extra reassurance to your team by running your own LLM, like the new the open source GPT models that I just dropped today?
Yeah. Check those out. Put them in like a container, right? And run them locally. If you've got a fast machine, GPU, all power to you. There are some freaking LLMs out there that can run on CPUs. So experiment, check them out, and shut your internet off. And
I just got that idea because OpenAI literally just released it like this morning.
Hell yeah.
So I have to go check it out myself. And then I guess one more question, then more in general. Does this take any substance away from those getting into GRC, or like does it just augment junior associates with like?
Yeah, I think it's the tide that raises all boats, right? Like we need help. Yeah, it's a good selling point. I'm not going down that route with CISOs and my product. It's just a helper, right? Get faster, cheaper, ways to get your freaking certification, right? But also learn, right? And I can't force that. Like I'm a teacher. I'm like, hey, you need to educate yourself on what this control domain is, and the auditors are going to audit whatever policies you write. You're liable to putting those controls in place. So. The GRC field, man, is a weird, vicious circle, but they need some help.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn, GRC, and it's what I got at Dartmouth. So
right on.
I'm trying to figure my way out.
Cool. Next question. Thank you. Yeah.
So if you're a SOC manager, what would be your top best return on value SOC use case for this?
Yeah, I think the threat intel enrichment, what I've got with the Arsenal Forge, start small. Though, right? Start within your own container. Don't try and do it all. Try and solve a quick use case. MITRE, right? Just upsert some data into a vector database, hook up a RAG, and see if it can auto magically tag your security detections, your logic. Start there and then build, right? So get your threat intel, hook it up to Slack, right? Inform your analyst, and really possibilities are endless. Now, when it comes to agentic shit, stay away. Don't auto magically press the easy button and have it do it. I mean, test out maybe some of the email, the spam, the phishing, right, for awareness. But start small first.
Hey guys, this is the last question.
Okay, my last question. So that slide, the roll your own slide, did any of that stuff that you were talking about have to do with, I missed it, training your own models? Or was it just using models and then plus RAG?
Yeah, so you can build there's some really good foundation models out there. They're always changing. Just try the off-the-shelf stuff first, and then augment and use a foundation model and then train. And yeah, it can pick up on learning. Like I get a lot of value in the prompt engineering, in putting in some of those custom, I don't know, like acronyms that your company may use, so it picks up on that, and then using the history functionality, so it learns as it goes along. Another like downstream thing you can do is the reinforcement learning, human feedback. So that's the thumbs up, thumbs down. But hey, that's all manual effort, and humans are gonna human. So take it for what it is. I think that's the last question, but yeah, feel free, come grab some stickers, ask questions, and thanks again, guys.
Brennan.